Yes, so this is probably one of the largest actually changes was the fundraising that came about for the rule. The rest was somewhat clarification, but this actually changed what was happening in code rules for these new items. And so, the fundraiser means any type of event or sponsored or supported by the group. And, sponsored and supported, provided means you got school employees, you got school funds, you got school resources, your advertising, so there are some real checklist things you can look at to ensure. So even those fundraisers, and so you have to dot the I's and cross the T's a bit on fundraising. And so let's talk about some of that. Even if you're providing financial support to the class group teams, but also there's a lot of charitable. There's a lot of fundraising for charitable. Now the one-offs, we want to help a student do this, and it's a benefit. Again, like the gentleman said over here, just make sure it's not required, and the student doesn't feel left out if he doesn't. I know that there's one LEA, they do a band concert. Their Christmas concert, they decided to turn it into a fundraiser for the Ronald McDonald House or something else. And they do this every year. It's consistent. They do it every year. They don't charge people fees to come in, but they charge the fee for the student to play at the concert. Well, if he doesn't play in the concert, there's no other concert. He's worked all the time in the class for this, but there's no other time for him to present or go. So they need to be careful that fee is that fundraiser for him is a fee, because they're taking instructional time to do it. It's somewhat that implied pressure that this is kind of the last event of the term, and so they need to be kind of work with that. Work with the governance of how you're let's say using, but seeking this participation of the students in these. And I just totally slaughtered that. And I'll look back on the video and think, how come I ever said that like that? But anyway. Okay, individual fundraisers. So, huge change. You cannot be required individual fundraisers, but you do not have to, as an LEA, provide opportunities. You may, and if you do the may, then you have to set up your policies and procedures about what that looks like and how that works and how many hours and what time. And so there's some things that you need to include in your policies and procedures. Okay, the group fundraising. This may allow required, so you don't have to. Again, you don't have to give any type of fundraisers. So you can't deny membership. Now, this was a huge discussion in our work spend group, because sometimes fundraisers are for a one-off event, like this prom, or it can be for, going to state or something like this, and it's just a one-time thing. So how do you deny participation but not membership? So that it's kind of hard to articulate that. So you want to make sure that if the students have to, on the prom or something, they did participate in the fundraiser, can they not, come to the prom then? Well, then they would have to pay the fee. So, you just need to work those things out and keep that on a local, use your best judgment and work with the students. But if a football team has having a fundraiser so they can get their equipment, they can replace the field, they can, have new pads, you can require that they come. Now, a lot of times in athletics, if you don't come to practice, you don't get your minutes on the field. Well, the same thing with a group fundraiser. You can't kick them off the team, but you are allowed to take whatever measures you feel appropriate to teach whatever leadership and say, no, we really want you to come and be part of these group fundraisers. So keep that in mind, as you're, again, trying to, probably better than I, because you guys have been in education a lot longer than I have, just keeping the student feeling like there's some being level field there for them to be. Okay, and the fundraising activity where the money is raised for the benefit of the group or team. And so that's it. And then the total per student expected to be received through the required. So the student participates in the group fundraiser as required. That needs to be part of the maximum, included in the maximum, and also be known in the maximum. Well, this much is we think we'll raise, we travel to state, it's going to be $1,000. We think we can raise $500 through group fundraising because we've always done these, car washes, or we've sold the Happenings books or whatever. Then put that amount over there that you expect for that, but the total will include this $1,500 out of pocket, $500 through this group fundraising, and that group fundraising you might want to describe. That's going to be 10 car washes, or it's going to be 2 car washes, or they might have to go. I'm part of a city council, Woods Cross City Council. We're trying to get groups to put flags up for Memorial Day. They come every month. We got an activity, but they can put the flags up. The city will pay for the students. So that takes some time, though. So let the parents know the time, the effort, what's going to be required.
Just on that, so say you put it on your fee schedule, exactly that, 500 and 500, but your fundraising brings in more. Are you able to lower the other fee?
Yes, and you can
out of
lower the
pocket.
other, yes.
Okay, perfect.
And I would even venture to say that even though it didn't get out of hand, what if your fundraiser didn't make enough money?
Right.
You don't want to go over the $1,000 max. You want to make sure that is at a high, but don't make it so unreasonable. But you want to make sure that high is there, so that, but never try to get more money out of people. Just try to keep to that, and then the makeup of that might have to adjust, but just make people aware of it, talk about it, communicate. So.
Question.
Okay.
So I'm an athletic director.
Yes.
Can I charge an athletic department fee? And then make required fundraising part of that. And then if somebody opts out, it just becomes a fee that they pay.
We were discussing that this morning. I don't know if we've got our hands around all of that just yet, because we've got some things coming up with you can't charge the fee more than what the cost. And so if it is the program, is the athletic, the entire athletic, or is it just the girls basketball or football? I think that though you will look to see maybe some parameters put around that. Guardrails, we're not there yet. But because we have this nuance coming out that you can't charge more than the fee, so it's restricted to that program, but is it restricted to that student? That's not what's been answered yet.
But the function of the athletic department might be to buy banners or A-frames or security at games, like the athletic department as a.
Now you've got all these costs,
right?
yeah, in
So
that.
you could spend, you could do a spend fee for spending schedule for that,
Right.
And then you could have an athletic department fee.
That encompasses these, and I think that's the transparency the parents are looking for.
That could be an athletic department fee, which could be subsidized by required fundraising.
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't participate in the required fundraising, opt in and pay the fee. Required fundraising.
Then you get trouble, you're still stuck if the student is a fee waiver student. As a waiver student, so.
That would apply to the fee waiver just as everything else. But it doesn't matter if I couch it under the softball team, right? If I do required fundraising for the softball team and they still get to opt out with the fee waiver anyway.
If they didn't do the group fundraising and they were a fee waiver student, then you could say, well, then maybe you don't get 10 minutes on the game, you're only going to get 5, That you can limit that participation actually in the event, but not as membership of the team.
I thought there was a rule that said you can't be penalized for not paying your fees.
Can be penalized, can be membership, and that's what it's coming down to. And this was what we came back and clarified, so that we would, because they were saying that they need, let's see, it's right here, that, hey, he wants to say something.
So the section that you're referring to is talking about participation during the regular school day. If they don't pay their biology lab fee, they still have to be able to take their biology class. For things that are outside of the regular school day, these fundraising rules would apply, or they could just be denied membership if they're not fee waiver and not paying. So the section you're referring to is strictly during the regular school day. They can't be penalized for non-payment of fees. That's
We're going to follow up. You're with Pro, right? We're going to clarify that because you cannot deny the membership in the softball team, but you could deny the minutes. So we will send out a clarification. Here's what happens during the regular school to be extra. It comes down to extracurricular versus curricular type of students. No, you're exactly right. Because it's not very often you have fundraisers for curricular. You will overall general school. but this is program. So these are some of the things we need to put some guardrails on going down, because there are more rules that come into effect, but I don't know that they've been fleshed out, for the cost and the fee expense and all of this. So as you're saying, you want to do an athletic, which is like this, which goes to all athletics, fundraiser for that. And so I can see that. So let's take that off, and we'll give you some clarification by the specific rules. And there are, is there? I guess the expectation was there would be fundraising for curricular activities, extracurricular.
Will you clarify that for like later on or now for co-curricular? So like your band who's raising money for a trip, or your.
Oh, I could think of that you do fundraising for the band because they want to travel.
Well, you have dance company and you have.
They don't. Does the travel with the band, does that affect that doesn't affect their grade,
right?
Like that. That's just kind of a.
Teachers have tried to do this.
Right, it's co-curricular.
Yeah, the co-curricular activity of that. And so I don't know that we haven't painted it in that brush, but there are parts of the rule that kind of say this is, and this fundraising definitely takes the flavor more of the extracurricular activities. So yeah.
So if you do a group fundraiser and you say we're going to raise $500 for each student so that they don't have to use $1,000, the student doesn't participate in the fundraising, does that money still need to be spread equally across all members?
No, we took that back out of the rules, part of the rule, that there didn't have to be for the mutual benefit of all participants, but just mutual benefit of the program activity organization. So,
Okay.
yeah, we took that part out.
So you brought up,
Individual participants, but the program itself, or activity.
you quantify a lot by saying fee waiver.
Yeah.
But our understanding is if you're on fee waiver and there's a group fundraiser, just like a group activity for a football team, whether you're on fee waiver or not, you need to show up to this group activity. So if we're doing something that we're trying to raise some funds for football and a fee waiver kid doesn't come, there's still a consequence for the student on fee waiver as well, correct?
That is the intent of the rewrite, yes. That you can't kick him off the football team, but you can tell him, no, you're not going to pay this. You didn't come to fundraisers, so you're not going to
It's the
play.
same consequence as the other kids who don't show up to the activity.
Don't show up activity, yeah.
So, or just to make sure I clarify, so let's say we have a choir and they're going on tour and they do a group fundraiser and they say, come to the group fundraiser, this is what we're going to do. Kid on a fee waiver chooses not to come to that group fundraiser, and then we could deny them going on the tour as a result of that, as long as it doesn't affect their grade or anything inside the class.
And they're still, they're part of the choir still.
Yeah, they're still part of the choir, but they couldn't go on that. We could say they couldn't
And
go.
that's what these one-off fundraisers kind of, it's a little easier for the team, not, the benefit. But that was the intent, and a change that was made in order to, if you will, still have you some ability to provide leadership within the students that they need required fundraisers. Anyway, but I'll get you some more. I am working on, in fact, I was working on the Rule 113, I've been working on it the last 2 weeks, trying to vet some of this out with the conjunction with 407. So hopefully we're not going to complicate, we're going to add value through those changes in the rule. Clarification. Okay. Ian's already written it down, he's already on it. Okay. All right. Notify the parents. So that's so important. Make sure your parents know, and not just the day before, a week before. Oh, you got to be to a fundraiser this weekend. Give them some good, adequate lead time. I know that you have these disclosure meetings. They'll get together first the year or the season to have these disclosure meetings. As much as you can, we push that information ahead of that. So give some good lead time. That's probably the biggest complaint of parents, just not having the lead time. Oh, I signed my kid up for swimming, they're doing great, and now I've got to spend 10 weeks in fundraisers. We dance. Okay, now, as I was talking about 113, these two have got to be hand in glove. The fundraising changes we made in 407, so now we're going over 113 and making some changes, but they are different. There's some overlap, but who authorizes your fundraisers or grant fee waivers? The internal controls of the cash handling. authorizing the fundraisers can be a big fight, I understand, amongst, for a coach or someone, or trying to just get something done and having to go through that process. But just make sure you're very clear in your policies of who can do the grant, the fundraisers, because interest to that fundraiser can in itself be, if it's like a carnival, or, it's not the cookie dough, but like the carnival, or there's a Boondocks or Lagoon is part of your, I don't know Lagoon gets involved, I can't say that. But, if it's a entrance fee to that fundraiser, that's probably going to be a school fee if it's widely advertised. Kind of want all the students there, even though it's a community fundraiser. The interest now, the food that's sold there, no, that's discretionary individual items. The rides, maybe, because that might be part of the entrance fee. So just be cognizant of these fundraising huge activities. You might have to parse out what is the fee, to waive some of those entrance fees, but if it's community based, keep the students out of it as much as possible. Then you're further and further away from that risk of it being a fee waivable participation.
So with that being said, about you take them to Lagoon and they buy their lunch. If they're on fee waiver, we don't have to buy their lunch?
No, I probably misspoke there because I was using Lagoon as an example of a fee waiver that you would have sponsor a Lagoon Day and everybody come, and then you can offer discount tickets, but and Lagoon is kicking in some. Yes, you may. So that now, but if they're going to Lagoon as the physics day, I figured out that there's a physics day at Lagoon, and so forth. Your school may not say, okay, you can go if you want. It's during instructional time, I understood. It's during instructional time, you go if you want, whatever, find your own way there. That's one thing. But if you load up a bus, take them all there, kids, you're collecting the money, you're sending chaperones from the school, then that's very much looking like a fee. And so, yes, you would have to provide the lunch at that point. But if it's like, no, you got to find your own way, we're not taking a bus. We'll give you an excused absence for it, but we're going to hold school and you can be at school. Then you're stepping away from that risk. That's actually a fee. Okay. Disclosure requirements, tax exempt, charitable donations. All these things come into play with the LU physical policy. Those information can stay over in the 113 rule, but we're trying to fit it hand in glove so the two come together. Your Title IX compliance is huge, though, on both the school fees rules. That comes with donations as well as fundraisers. And the allowable and tops of fundraisers, student participations, and how you're interacting with school organizations. So you're well aware, you've been doing it for years, PTA, whatever it may be, your advisory councils and so forth, these fundraisers. Just make sure you're kind of starting to rein those in, that they know that there's an authorizer, and that someone there is going to authorize these and have a more watchful care, and what your procedures. Write a policy, follow a policy, so you can kind of rein that in. Not rein it in, but be aware of it. Don't let it get away from you. Okay.
So does any of that include, say, at administration or coaches, that we go out and sell banners, we go out to community and solicit donations?
Yes, all that comes as part of this, because and that comes more, I think, in the Title IX, and I'm not as versed in Title IX. I've got to go upstairs and get their advice. I'm not a good person on that. But that if you're getting hundreds of thousands of donations in on your boys football team, but the girls soccer team gets nothing or can't, this community just isn't able to get their arms around that as much. Well, you might have to tweak your policy or how you distribute those funds at the LEA to kind of make sure that is meeting the Title IX requirements.
But if it's just athletic department and not sports specific, then that would be something that we could decide.
Then you're holding the money up here and
Yeah.
you're getting it as it should be.
Okay.
Okay.